Hello, welcome to Raymond Castile's Basement of Horror. It's called the Basement of Horror because it's a mess and it's horrible. So we're not going to see the basement. What we are going to see are boxes that I've randomly selected from the shelves in the basement. I'm going to open up a box and we're going to see what's inside and talk about it. This is pretty free form. I don't have a plan. I just open the box up and I say, hey, what's this? And I tell you whatever I can about it. So here we go. What's in this box? Well, these are interesting. So what we have here is an Underworld Warrior. Let's get the rest of them out. Let's see here. Don't want to fall over. Crunch. This is a line called Underworld Warriors. And I have 4 of these 6 characters. This one is like a snake man. Let's see if we can get him. Okay. And this one is, oh, that's my favorite. This is a Krampus. And this is a skeleton. And this is a devil. He's a cute devil. He's kind of a hot pink devil instead of a red devil. He's a very funny looking devil. The other figures in this line are a witch and a vampire. Those are the 2 I'm missing. This is a set that appeals to knockoff collectors. They don't like the mainstream licensed toys. They want the toys that tried to copy those toy lines and cash in on their popularity by making similar toys. Toys that were designed to appeal to the same kids, but were much more cheaply made. So something like this would have been sold in a dollar store, a discount store, whereas Masters of the Universe might have been at Target or Kmart or whatever, Toys R Us. You probably wouldn't have seen these guys at Toys R Us. Maybe, but they're made for dollar stores, dime stores, the low-end market. But because they're kind of crude and weird, they're more interesting. They're bizarre and odd and kind of creepy. So these guys, the Underworld Warriors, not a whole lot is known about them, but I believe they were made by a company called Tung Sing in 1986. And the ones I have they all say Underworld Warriors. All of mine say Underworld Warriors. But they also come on cards that say Ultra Tumba Lucadores, which is a Spanish version of the same title. And then there's another version that comes on a much more colorful card. It says Skull Force. It has completely different artwork. The Ultra Tumba version has the same artwork, just Spanish text. The Skull Force, I think that's what they're called, Skull Force. It has like a bright kind of yellow or orange card with a different character on it. It's completely different logo. And I don't know what came first, what came second. There is a catalog, Tung Sing catalog, that shows these listed as, I think, Muscle Warriors, along with some more obvious He-Man type hero characters that I guess were supposed to fight these guys, but they're a different series. They're not part of the same series. These toys have nothing on the back of the card. It's just blank cardboard. So there's not like a artwork showing all the different characters that were part of the set. At one time, these were very mysterious, and no one knew much about them. No one knew what they were called. The only examples anyone found were loose ones. So it took many years for people to finally find carded examples, and then they knew what the name was. And then finally, someone found a catalog, and they knew what the manufacturer was called, and all the pieces started fitting together. But for years, people just thought of them as these bright, like candy-colored monster figures, and they figured they must have been from the 80s, maybe the 90s, but they didn't really know. The artwork on this is really cool. You've got this weird skeleton ninja character in this yellow hood, and he's throwing these metal claws. You see here the bottom kind of looks like Lincoln Monster artwork, and we'll be looking at Lincoln Monsters probably in a future video. But this coffin and the skeleton hand and the blood, it has a very Lincoln-esque look. This skeleton is the rarest of the set. In fact, I don't think I've ever seen another carded skeleton. The skeleton turns up loose, but you never see him on a card. And interestingly, the skeleton is made in China, whereas all the rest of these say made in Hong Kong. So I wonder if that has any connection to the skeleton being so much harder to find than the rest. Maybe the skeleton was made later. Maybe they put the rest of them out, and a year later they made the skeleton. That happens sometimes. And this guy's in a bag instead of a case because his card has some tears in it, and I don't want to risk snagging it on the inner rims on these plastic cases. So this devil, as I said, he's a cute little devil. I really like him. I think what attracted me to these toys was their Halloween quality. They look like Halloween party favors. Like you would give these out at a kid's party for Halloween. He's an angry little devil. So hopefully I'll find the vampire and the witch at some point. And I could have got them already if I wanted them on Ultra Tumba cards or Skull Force cards, but I want them on Underworld Warriors English language cards, so the whole set is consistent. I want them all in the same style card. Okay, well, so let's see what else we got. Got a lot of plastic bags. Here's something. These are neat. We have a Toy Island Howler. Let's get some of these off of here. Make a little room. So here we have the Toy Island Howler. And this is one of a set of 3. I'll get the other 2 out in a second. You can see on the back here. This is a werewolf, and when you push his chest, he howls like a wolf. He goes, "Ow!" So here we have all 3 of them. We've got the werewolf, and we have a vampire, and a zombie. These were made by Toy Island in 1992. And at that time, Toy Island was making a lot of battery-operated electronic action figures, and they all did different things, like they would light up or they would talk. There was a big RoboCop figure, like a 12-inch RoboCop, that was battery operated, and he would say lines from the movie. They had Western figures and pirate figures in the same style as these. And I had the pirate figures at one point. I don't anymore. But I remember being fascinated with these because they were the first Mego-style monster figures that had been in stores in a long time. These actually had cloth costumes, and they were articulated, and that was kind of unusual at the time. You can see here the werewolf has a really cool leather jacket and blue jeans. He's got some weapons here. The vampire has a nice Nosferatu kind of a look. He's bald. He's got those big fangs. And I like the detail. I don't think you can see it, but he's got a lot of great detail on his feet and his hands. They're very, it has nice monster kind of sinewy hands and feet. He has a belt that you can't see. The belt has fallen off. It's in there, but it's fallen off his waist. And the vampire says, "I want to bite you." I have heard his voice. We're not going to hear it today, because the battery's, I'm sure, dead by now, but I wouldn't want to take him out and try. And this zombie is really cool. There were not a lot of zombie toys at the time. This was way before The Walking Dead. You just didn't see a lot of zombie action figures or zombie toys of any kind. The zombie says, "Help me." And he sounds really mournful and pitiful. He goes, "Help me." And I like the way he's got some, I don't know if you can see, he's got some exposed brain on the side of his head. He's got some fingers missing. And kind of like the vampire, his belt is slipping. I guess the belts don't hold on very tight. So this is a nice little set. There's only 3 of them. So it should be easy to collect. There's only 3, right? But in fact, trying to find these on cards is nearly impossible. It took me several years to find this set. I bought them all at the same time from one collector. Trying to get them one at a time, I wouldn't have the 3 of these today. There's no way. I might have 1 or 2, but not all 3. So it's a pretty rare set on cards, and even loose, it's not very common loose either. A rare, interesting set from an era, early 90s, when companies weren't making a lot of monster stuff. Certainly not like this. These were unique. They were a real throwback to the 70s Ahai Mego type monster figures. Well, there's a few other things in here. Let's see what else is in this box. Well, what in the world are these? These are Arco toys. These were made in 1982, early 80s. Arco creepy crawly things. And we have a bag of bugs. A barrel of worms. And a crypto creatures. Not crypto as in cryptozoology, crypto creatures, like a crypt of creatures. And then this is the skull full of snakes. Let's take this one out of the bag. The card is sort of, I don't want to say floppy, but it's not a very firm card. The bubble is really yellowed. The bubble is really yellow. And then on the back, he's got some nice artwork on the back. This was made in 1983. The other ones were 1982. This is 1983. And you pop apart this plastic skull, and it's got all these PVC snakes and centipedes and spiders inside. And the skull glows in the dark. And the skull is not yellow, it's the bubble that's yellow. You can see around the edges the skull's still white. So Arco made a lot of different toys. They made something called the Underworld, I think. This set of like Dungeons and Dragons style bendy figures. They had play sets and accessories, and those go for a lot of money. But they made a lot of these little rack toys on these little cards like this. And you can see these are all similar. They're like a container full of little bugs or snakes or centipedes. I mean, all of them are same theme, only this one's a skull, the other ones are just containers. They also made something called Curse of the Mummy, which was a sarcophagus, and it opened up, and then inside there was a glow-in-the-dark mummy, much like the skull. And I think he had maybe a tab on the back, so he rose up, or had some kind of mechanism like that. I don't remember. And he had some snakes, some PVC snakes, like kind of jiggly snakes that were in the sarcophagus with them, and kind of like wrapped around him. And it was along the same series as these things. And I used to have the Curse of the Mummy, and I got rid of him because when I bought him, bad things started happening. And I noticed, I thought, boy, I'm having a run of bad luck. What's going on? And I realized, you know, it started when I bought that Curse of the Mummy toy. I could trace it back. Yes, when that thing arrived, from that day, I've had all this bad luck. So I sold it, and then the bad luck stopped. Now, not that I haven't had bad luck since then, but that run of bad luck stopped when I sold the toy. Hopefully I didn't pass the curse on to the next buyer. Maybe I did. I don't know. So I've been reluctant to replace the Curse of the Mummy. But I might, because I've since found out that it was issued by two companies, Arco, and then another company, and the one I had was not the Arco version. It was probably I'm sure they were all made by the same company. Maybe it was just Arco packaged it or something, I don't know. It was the same toy, and almost the same card, but not exactly the same. The Arco one actually says Arco on it. The one I had did not, and had slightly different artwork. So maybe if I got the Arco one, it would fit with the rest of the set, and it wouldn't bring me bad luck. So I might risk it. But that Curse of the Mummy goes for unusually high dollars on eBay, so I don't know if I'm going to replace it or not. So that's all I have to say about the Arco toys. They're cool little rack toys, you know, nothing spectacular, but they're neat. They're something of a particular time. And that's the cool thing about this box, is that all these things, they're all of a particular time. This kind of Masters of the Universe, sword and sorcery, fantasy era, and all these weird little off-brand toys. I mean, so Toy Island in its day was not off-brand. Toy Island was kind of, maybe it was mainstream, but it wasn't Kenner or Mattel or Hasbro. So all of these things sort of haunted the junk aisles. Maybe not these. Well, here, one thing I should have said about these. As far as I know, the Toy Island monsters were only sold in the UK. These were not sold in the US. The rest of these were, but these, the Toy Island monsters, were only sold in the UK as far as I know. The other Toy Island battery-operated electronic action figures, the Pirates, the Western, there was an Astronaut, there was RoboCop, etc. All of those were sold in the US. The whole line was sold in the US. The only ones that were not sold in the US were the monsters. And that's another reason why it's hard to find, at least in the United States, it's hard to find these things. But all of these toys were, considered kind of low end. Even the Toy Island ones, I remember back at the time, I found, like the Pirates, they sold the Pirates at Walgreens. I bought the set of Pirates at Walgreens. So even those were sort of low-end rack toys, not the mainstream top of the line action figures like G.I. Joe or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles or Star Trek. And I don't see a lot of stuff like this anymore. You just don't see cool little weird stuff, off-brand, no-name rack toys with these goofy ideas like a skull full of snakes. You don't see that anymore. And this figure has a snake head with like a reptile man face coming out of the snake head. So he's got his almost crocodilian or cobra-like head, and then inside is another face coming out of the mouth. So he's double snaky. He's extra snaky. It's a shame that you don't see that. I guess if you go to a dollar store, I suppose you see some stuff like this, but it's not as cool. Not as cool as these 80s and 90s knockoff toys. Well, I guess that's it. So, thank you for watching this episode of Raymond Castile's Basement of Horror.